Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, adnastana. Here in the basement lounge of my lodge here today. And this is part of what I want to discuss with you today. What makes your lodge, club, call it what you want, encampment, what makes it unique? Like I said, as you can see, I'm in the basement of my lounge room. This is the basement lounge of my lodge here. And this is part of what makes this lodge unique and one of the reasons I love it. This is something we have here where we can come down here. You've seen me smoke cigars down here, of course. So what makes your lodge unique? This is another one of those segments where I'll be bringing different guests on to discuss what the uniqueness of their lodge, what makes it unique. And we're going to have some fun with this. So let's move forward, brothers and sisters.
Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
My first guest is Ben Jackson. He is the Vice Noble Grand Humbug of the South number 1187, chapter E. Clampus Vetus in Wyoming. Now, what makes your particular chapter different or unique, shall we say?
Well, that's a tough one to answer, because there's such a breadth, a wide and vast breadth to to all the chapters of E. Clampus Vitus. Currently we have, I think our running total right now is 53 chapters in E. Clampus Vitus, and like I was saying the other day when we talked over the phone, over 500,000 members. So and we have a lot of very, very special chapters out there. But I would say that probably what makes our chapter the most unique is that we have such a wide geographical area that we represent. So having the entire state of Wyoming, basically, that we represent, and that is our territory, and the Western heritage that is here, the Western history, and the different terrain and history that we have, and the membership being so spread out. And then, with ECV, with E. Clampus Vitus being so drawn to the history of mining, and there being such a diverse history of mining of all different types in this state, whether it be gold mining, silver mining, copper mining, coal mining. There is such a diverse history of the actual mining industry here. It's a plethora of that mining history for us to be able to draw from, and look for those sites of historical significance to be able to dedicate and really try to preserve that rich mining heritage and history within this state of Wyoming, for future generations to appreciate the hard work of all of those people that really, really struggled to try to make all of those mining camps work, back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, that ultimately failed for whatever reasons. A lot of times it was weather, but that's something that a lot of the states out west don't have, is that diverse intertwining of the mining history. They might only have gold or silver or a combination of both, but where we have so much different mixings of mining history. That's one thing that Wyoming has that a lot of the other states don't, and our chapter can really draw upon.
Next, we're going to speak to Nov Paschalis. He's the immediate past Grand Primo of the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes in Cyprus, but his primary lodge is the James Mercury Lodge over there. So let's see what makes the James Mercury Lodge unique. And you say now your mother lodge is what?
James Mercury.
Okay, so James Mercury. What makes James Mercury, shall we say, unique? What do you do, shall we say, that none of the other lodges do?
With any of the lodges, they have their own character.
Yes.
And that's basically on who attends.
Okay.
It depends on who attends. So who attends? Who's in the chair? Okay. When you're in the chair, it's a matter of, when I'm taking people through examining counsel, for example, I'm on the panel of instructors. It's pointing out to them, lodge is meant to be fun. Yes, we have serious things to do, but we try and get through that serious business as quickly as we can. And the rest of it should be a bit lighthearted and should be fun and should be an escape for people. Mm-hmm. Sitting with your brothers, and you're not going to always like all of them. Mm-mm. It's like a family. If you've got siblings, you don't always like them. But again, with your actual siblings, you should still be there to support your brethren. So James Mercury has a particular demographic, let's say. It's got a mix of people. Let's say with the Decalia Garrison Lodge, about half of us that go to James Mercury also go to Decalia Garrison Lodge on a Sunday. But again, that has a slightly younger feel to it. But yeah, it's just different characters, really. So that's what makes the lodge. It's the characters within it. So at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun.
Now, no discussion on any fraternal topic would be complete without a visit from my friend. Hey, what's that noise? Owen Snowden. He is the worshipful master of the Johnston Heroes 264 Orange Lodge in Hebburn, United Kingdom. What was that noise? Oh, that's wonderful. Now, what makes, you were quite excited to come on here, what makes the Johnston Laurel Orange Lodge 264, what makes it unique, shall we say?
It's a very old lodge, just like Monks and True Blues. I believe they were consecrated in the same year. I can't remember the year specifically. I should, being the master.
It's okay.
But yes, these lodges are very old. A lot of people don't realise Orangism has been in Newcastle for, I believe, 200 or 300 years.
Wow.
There is a famous, at one point in Northumberland, there used to be multiple districts, and even so you had the North Shields district, you had the Tyneside district, I believe there was a South Shields district, don't take my word on that one. But yeah, Orangism was very strong at one point within the north of England. It is slowly starting to grow again, which I'll go on later on in another segment with you about. But yes, Orangism, there was a famous song, which is an old folk song in Northumberland called Skipper's Dream. If any of your listeners out there want to do a bit of Orange research, look up the song Orange Order, Skipper's Dream, folk song, and it should quite rightly tell you a little bit of history there relating to how old the Orange is and how rooted it was in the working class and the British culture. Our lodge is a mixture. I'm probably one of the youngest masters of that lodge. Most of our lodges have been masters. There's a brother in that lodge who's been a master 18 times, which is great.
Wow.
Shows that he shows dedication to the institute. But I do believe that our lodge has. You're right. From what you've saw, is the lodge has a mixture, and I think that's good because you get the young learning from the elders of that lodge, and them elders passing that knowledge, and the young not just seeing the elders passing the knowledge, and the young passing that knowledge on as well of modernization to the degree of technology, advertising, getting out leaflets, getting out Facebook posts, getting out just the message of Orangism is still alive and strong, and that it shall never die.
Lastly, we're going to hear from Jean Mucci. She is the Supreme President of the Columbiettes. She's also bring some friends with her for this particular interview. Well, I'll let one or two chime in on this one. What makes your Columbiettes auxiliary, shall we say, different, unique from, say, other ones? I do know that even though the organizations I belong to, every lodge has its personality. Let's talk about that.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let the officer say something.
Someone knock yourself out here, yeah.
I think one thing that makes us different, that Columbiettes different, is that we pray for one another, that we're there for one another if they have a death in the family, an illness. We're always there to jump in and help out and just to be like a regular sister to them.
So there you have it, brothers and sisters. A number of different individuals representing various different fraternal bodies across the spectrum. I love doing these particular segments. I really do, because we cover so much ground in these. I don't know about you, whether you notice that or not. I do. We cover a lot of ground, but I will also say sometimes I do feel sorry for my guests, because these questions oftentimes come out of thin air. I will do an interview where I will ask a random question that really doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about at the time, and you'll get the guests get going now when I ask these questions, right? Like prime example, how do you approach the ideal candidate? I'll throw that in. They don't understand that I'm oftentimes going to take that, what they say there, and put it into a different segment. I mean, it's just, but yeah, I do enjoy this. And like I said, well, more than anything else, I know maybe my guests might find it annoying, but like I said, I love these segments because we cover so much ground. So let's go back and digress, shall we say. Mr. Jackson felt that having a lodge, what made his lodge unique, his Clampers Lodge unique, was that it draws from the entire state of Wyoming, and that definitely would contribute to the chemistry, the very unique chemistry, or the uniqueness of his lodge, shall we say, the chemistry and definitely the character of his lodge. Brother Knopf says it's not just the personality of a lodge, okay, but who's in attendance at that particular meeting or event. Now, I can understand that. Have you ever noticed how one particular individual, or brother or sister, shall we say, can completely change the lodge and or the chemistry of your lodge room or the event you're holding that night in your lodge? Yeah, I definitely have. There's been some real characters in the lodges I belong to. Brother Snowden talked about the history of his lodge. Definitely makes his lodge unique, and there is something to be said about the age of a lodge or an organization that you belong to, or even the building. Sometimes you walk into a building, you can feel the history, but his lodge has been around for like a long time, like hundreds of years maybe. So yeah, you can kind of understand where, yeah, it definitely would feel very unique, the lodge he belongs to. And I'll say that history doesn't happen overnight, but we do make it as we go along, and there is something to be said for that. Brother Snowden also mentioned that his lodge has quite a unique mix of older and younger members, and longer term members and newer members, things like that. That's important that you get that mix, that age and the knowledge that goes with your older or your more experienced members, as well as that youthful exuberance that can often accompany younger and newer members of the lodge. I like that. Our sisters in the Columbianettes believe that prayer made their auxiliaries unique, as well as more relaxed, the more relaxed dress code, shall we say, in some of their jurisdictions. And that's very true, right? The faith aspect of an organization, that foundation of faith, in the more sectarian orders, yeah, you do feel that it does make it. It does make your lodge, and in their case, they call it their jurisdiction, very unique. I think that's great. But what makes your lodge different, right? And what are you doing, shall we say, to keep it unique, right? We want our lodges to stand out a little bit. We can be part of a much larger organization, but our lodges, and you can't tell me that every lodge, I do notice this, every lodge does have a certain personality to it. Like I've often said, I've been in lodges where, like I said to these Columbianettes, I said, I've been in lodges where I walked in, and it's a more laid back organization. The lodge is a little more laid back, and I've walked in there. I tend to, like I said, like to dress up a tiny bit, and I've walked into lodges where I felt like a nun in a whorehouse because everybody else is walking around in jeans and t-shirts. On the other hand, I've walked into ones with, shall we say, slacks and a blazer and been told, "Where's your tie?" So you know what I mean? Like, even for things like that, they can be very different. And we did cover that, I might add, in a previous segment of Points of Light Radio, our dress code. So, but yeah, but there's nothing wrong, shall we say, with our lodges having certain characteristics. I do want to apologize. I know I do tend to use a lot of scriptural references as I go along. If that offends you, having said that, I do feel that the scriptures do add to the discourse, don't you? But this was interesting. Like I said, a lot of ground to cover here, but I love this, and it was really interesting to do this particular segment. But that's all I have time for in this particular segment. So before I go, as usual, I want to remind you that you can view this podcast on YouTube as well as listen to it on Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. I know I will get some on this particular one. Right? You can see the link to my PayPal, the PayPal link there, where you can go, hit on that link, make a voluntary donation to Points of Light Radio, and we will use that to move the podcast forward. You can also see the link to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. You can see the link to my Twitter handle, as well as my Bluesky handle. I do post this on Bluesky now. You can see the link to my Spotify channel, as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, it's been a pleasure bringing you this segment as always, and until we meet again, just step into the light.